o'clock hour without much hiccup.
No, not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
And Keith Durham's in here with Heritage Automotive, and Keith and Kevin is with
And Kevin, yes, from Heritage
I said
Automotive.
Keith again, but it's Kevin.
So, hey, we're going to talk about something today that probably will interest.
I can't wait.
You can't wait. So tell me, are you a creationist or an evolutionist? Just
Oh, I'm definitely a creationist.
okay, Kevin, you creationist or evolutionist?
Gracialist, I guess.
Gracialist?
Yeah, him too.
What was that?
What did he say?
Well, red light in here. I'll be in trouble again.
What in the world? All right, so
He made up a new word. I
Yeah.
like it.
So I'm a creationist, but you know, there's all this talk about the origins of life, and we started talking a couple weeks ago about NASA and their mission that they have, and their search for the origin of life.
Yes.
And so what I want to do today is look into the astrobiology just a little bit, and talk about astrobiology and talk about NASA's mission in their search for the origin of life and where we're at today. And
I understand biology. You know what biology is. Then there's astrobiology.
That's correct.
What is astro? What you have to define what astrobiology is.
I've got the definition of astrobiology. So just to set the record straight before we start, this is something that I know absolutely little about.
Okay.
But it's something I think that we can talk about and form our own conclusions. Okay, and that's what we're both going to do.
You want to take this phone call?
Absolutely, yeah. It could be a birthday. Okay, call back if you need to say something on the air. Okay, so yes, know what astrobiology is. Astrobiology is the study of the origin, evolution, and distribution of life in the universe.
Origin, the
Origin, evolution, and distribution of life in the universe.
I got you.
So there are those out there who feel like that there is a Big Bang theory that took place. And I disagree with that. And I think I can scientifically disagree with even without being a scientist. Because if everything came from a Big Bang, think about how huge that Big Bang had to be. Because now we're looking outside of our universe, and there's like, NASA is now saying that there could be a trillion universes like ours. I mean, how big a ball did that have to be? And where did it come from, you know? And so other things take place there too, you know, like theories of motion and things like that. So if a Big Bang took place, why are we not still hurling through space? You know, we're sitting still.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's some things that I feel like scientifically says that's a bunch of baloney. So anyway, I got this. So no, I'm not making this up. I got this stuff from NASA's website. You can go to astrobiology.nasa.com. You can look at the stuff that I want to read right here. And I won't read everything verbatim, but I want you to. There's some profound things that come out. You have to understand that one of the greatest missions that NASA has today is to try and prove the origins of life and look for life on other planets. That's what astrobiology is all about. And so listen to this. And this gets into
Profound.
profound things. And this is on NASA. This is not my opinion. This is on astrobiology.nasa.com. And it says, ask most anyone whether life exists on other planets and moons, and the answer you'll get is a confident yes. Okay, so I'm going to poll the audience here. Do you believe there's life on other planets?
Yes.
Okay. Jerry is not going to answer that.
I'll answer. I'll tell you my answer. My answer is I don't have any reason to.
Okay. All right. So I've got the same answer. I don't have any reason to believe that.
You just said there's trillions of other.
I did.
I'm sorry. You read ahead. You go ahead. I'm sorry. I haven't read this.
Well, I think you bring up a good point.
There's trillions just like this, and you don't think nothing can sustain.
I think
How do you know they haven't already been?
here's another way to answer that is yes, it's possible, but I don't have a reason to believe.
Okay, so I didn't come prepared today to debate the things that we're seeing. Now they're putting out these things, tracking these UFOs and visits from other planets and stuff like that. So anyway,
I have a theory on that. Go ahead.
I've got a big theory on that. Yeah, so we won't go down that tangent today because this is going to take us a while right here. But everybody, their take on this is that we get an overwhelming yes. Now there is something in our minds that creates that yes for us, or creates that no for us. If that makes sense.
So we have a Star Trek education.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, I can remember growing up, the first, I guess, extraterrestrial show that I watched was Lost in Space. Did
Yeah.
you ever
Oh,
see
yeah.
that? Hey, the Slee Stacks are still scaring me today.
Wait a minute. Slee Stacks wasn't on Lost in Space.
They weren't?
No.
That was
What was that?
valley to the center of the.
That was the
yes.
dinosaur show.
Yeah.
What?
Slee, yeah, you captured
The
it.
Slee
I do
Stacks.
have it.
But Slee Stacks were scary.
They weren't on Lost in Space? Okay,
No, they were on that.
what was
I know.
it?
What's the name of that show? It was the little family, and they were
Yeah.
like back in prehistoric
They
times.
went on a trip.
Yeah.
They went down the center of the earth.
And Chaco was with them?
Yeah. That's not Lost in Space.
That's not Lost in Space. Lost in Space
Lost
is
in
Will
Space.
Robinson. And
Yeah,
the
it's the robot, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. Now we're good.
What would, if anybody knows the other show with the Slee
Should I
Stacks?
tell them what Rodney said?
Yeah.
Rodney was give me well, my phone didn't decide. Rodney said we didn't know anything about etiquette, and then when Keith began to talk, he said, "Is Keith drunk?"
That could be.
Is Keith drunk?
It's too early in the morning to be drunk, and I don't drink anyway. So, anyway, I gotta continue to read what NASA's take is on this because it's.
I've been moved.
You've been moved. That's okay. I've got to give you NASA's take on this. And
There's somebody calling.
is that a caller to talk about?
They may have
astrology?
We'll get
Okay.
it in a minute.
Okay, so we formed this as a yeah.
This is too much good. Hey, you need to be on with us.
Land of the lost.
Land of the
Lost.
Champion, we have a winner.
Gotcha, Land of the Lost. And we're talking Lost in Space.
I just had to call.
I'm so glad you
Well,
told
your
us.
credit did have a lost in it.
Land of the
Okay,
Lost.
thank
Thank you, honey. God bless. See you. Speaking of Land of the Lost, that may be us.
Yeah, I have the same caller. We're alive in America today, Land of the Lost. Okay, now listen to this. This is NASA going on. We're going to talk about this. But that extraterrestrial presence on regular display is, of course, a fiction. Now listen to this. Here's probably one of the most profound statements NASA has ever put out. No life beyond Earth has ever been found. There is no evidence that alien life has ever visited our planet. It's all a story. And I didn't make that up. I took that straight off of NASA's website.
Amen. Hallelujah.
So,
Now, this is the same. That's the government agency. Same one with Area 51. That's all I got to say.
we won't talk about that. All right. Okay, so listen, they just said that there is no evidence that life ever existed on other planets or that other life has visited our planet. And they went on to say in a very short sentence, it's all a story. However, they went on, they say, that doesn't mean, however, the universe is lifeless. All right, while no clear signs of life have ever been detected, the possibility of extraterrestrial biology, the scientific logic that supports it, has grown increasingly plausible. That is perhaps the single largest achievement of the burgeoning field of astrobiology, the broad-based study of the origins of life here and the search for life beyond Earth. Now, so they're saying there's no evidence that this stuff exists, but we're going to spend billions and billions of your taxpayer dollars to see if it does. So,
No,
That
wasn't
sounds
it?
right.
listen, I'm reading into this a little
That
bit.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't it the same? I don't know, maybe I dreamed this, that they found a rock or something on Mars and it had microorganisms, and so they're saying that life could live on Mars. And
That's a totally different comment. You're right.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So
no, it looks like it.
Oh, it looks like
yeah,
it.
it
Oh.
looks like it. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what you got to
again, smoke and mirrors.
Smoke
I see.
and mirrors, absolutely. Like when you go to a magician show, it looks like that plane disappeared. How did that happen? You know? Or maybe it just looked like it was there in the first
Or
place.
they could have been that way.
So by exploring and illuminating the world of extreme life on Earth, by experimenting with how life here began, by understanding more about the chemical makeup of the cosmos, by testing the habitability missions to Mars, Jupiter's moon Europa, Saturn's moon Titan, and beyond, the enormous body of science is being assembled to analyze and explain the origins, characteristics, and possible extraterrestrial dimensions of life. And unlike the ET and Starship Invaders of popular culture, these discoveries are and will be real. Wow!
I can't wait.
Well, I can't. I mean, it's unbelievable. So they're. I mean, they pretty much lay out their whole mission based on astrobiology, and we talk about. Well, is this going on today? Absolutely, it's going on today because like back in the '60s and '70s, we had the Apollo missions, and the Apollo missions took man to the moon.
Well, there's some argument there, see?
Yeah, and that's and Jeff.
I'm not going to say it.
You're not going to say it. I have looked at all of the conspiracy theories that say man never went to the moon. I'm just going to tell you, Jeff. I don't know.
Kind of makes you wonder.
It's got me wondering now. But the big we'll get off on a tangent on this just for a minute because the biggest thing that says that yes they went to the moon. Number one. There were people there at the launch site. Everybody watched it on TV. Those rockets took off.
Yes, they did.
Went somewhere.
They went somewhere.
All right. So that's number one. And the other thing is that in the support of the missions to the moon, it took over 400,000 people to do that. And if it was fake, that would be one of the best kept secrets of all time, or is the best kept secret of all time. So,
yeah.
But anyway, because it was a different time. When I worked with the government, people had pride in the government and the country, and there's secrets that you can't tell and things like that. Nowadays, people have no. I mean, there's no patriotism, and there's to me,
You got a camera in your hand on the phone, and you can't hide from nothing.
Well, let me continue on because this is. Let's talk about what's going on today. So you've got to. I've got some things right here. The past as a guide to the future. This is what they say here. Astrobiology research is taking place because its time has come. So it's time for astrobiological research. Okay,
Why did they decide now's the time?
Because our government decides there's time for whatever, and then they fund it. Okay.
Okay.
So.
It was next on the list.
It was almost first on the list. Astrobiology is right.
Whew, it took a while to get to that.
Right below, right after anthropology.
Yes.
So anyway, scientists across the country and around the world are diving into the origin of life and life beyond Earth issues and developing exciting and cutting-edge work. But NASA also has an astrobiology strategy. Okay, now this is where we're going to be one of our key talking points today. NASA has an astrobiology strategy describing where the agency sees promising lines of research, from the highly specific to the wide and broad, that the agency might support. And so here's a sampling of the things that they're doing. All right, so you got to. This is just beyond belief, I think. And I don't know anything about astrobiology, but I don't think I want to know anything beyond the papers that I've got today. Okay, so here's the things that they're giving examples of. What were the steps that led intimate materials, rocks, sediments, organic compounds, water to come together and build living organisms? Okay, so number one, we can derive from this that they are not creationists. The people that are astrobiologists obviously don't believe in the process of creation.
No.
All right, so now they've got to prove this process of evolution. All right, so that they're trying to figure out where rocks and sediments and organic compounds and water come together to build living organisms, with replicating genes and cell walls and the ability to reproduce. Okay, so that's one of the things. The second one is what led to the proliferation of new life forms on Earth. All right, so I don't know about you guys, but I've seen these shows on TV where all life form came from like a tadpole coming up out of the water, and it turned into a snake or a reptile, then a bird, then a ape-looking thing, and then
Well,
come
that's a
on.
traditional, theory of evolution.
Yeah, that's
And that's how
Darwinism,
they,
and it's-
this Darwinism 101.
Yeah. So the other one, next one is it possible to learn from chemicals and minerals on the surface of planets whether microbes might live there, including beneath the planet's surface? So that's one of the reasons they're going to space is they're going to try to explore that topic right there. And the last one is it possible, likely even, that life exists elsewhere based on elements other than carbon and a system different than DNA? So we're talking about alien life now that's we're pretty much made of dirt, okay?
Yes.
Lord formed us out of dirt. So,
That's right.
And breathed life into us. But and we all have DNA that makes us individual. And so now they're saying, well, what if there's other life that's not formed by DNA or not formed out of dirt and doesn't have DNA? So that's going to be another research. So I just want people to understand what their tax dollars are being spent on here, and not to say that we can have the argument all day long that, hey, during this process there's some great things that come out of this and it helps everyday life, but is it worth the cost? I'm not sure. These and so many other lines of research shed light on how to identify and find extraterrestrial life, as well as how to understand the origins of life on Earth. These two issues are inseparable. Okay, so that according to NASA, the two issues of identifying and finding extraterrestrial life, as well as how to understand the origins of life, they are married together.
But wait a minute. Let's
so
talk
what they're
about that.
saying is- go
That's
ahead.
totally ridiculous.
That is. So they're saying
That's
you can't
totally-
find the origins of life unless you find life on other
that's-
planets that describe how it happened.
That's totally ridiculous. We can't understand our origins of life unless we find an extraterrestrial.
That is correct. And I'm, I wish I would have written that paper because I could explain it a lot better, but I can't. I can only read it on the surface and comment. These are people that went to college and have college educations and are schooled and are considered to be smart by society.
I think a lot of that kind of stuff happens not only in this arena but other arenas as well of study, or what's called higher education, where they just they intellectualize something to death, and then write something like this that you and I would, in passing, not pay that much attention to because
Right.
it's just it's a bunch of eggheads thinking whatever they did, and it is. That's
Yeah.
basically it, and nobody questions them. That's why they keep doing it.
That's correct.
Nobody questions it. And the problem we have is we don't question enough. I think there's beginning to be a little bit of a turn. I see.
I hope so, yeah.
There's beginning to be a little bit of a turn in some of the social circles of societal evolution, I guess I'll say, that people are saying, wait a minute, parenting doesn't need the government as a partner.
I would have.
You understand?
Yes, absolutely.
Parenting doesn't need the government as a partner, but the intellectuals have decided that they do, and people are beginning to push back on ridiculousness like this.
Right, right.
But stuff like this goes unnoticed by the general population,
That's right.
and that's why we're spending billions and billions, and they can get away with it because they write these intellectually high-end sounding papers that nobody questions.
That's right. You're exactly right. And it's okay. So I want to say something. I believe in evolution. I don't believe in the evolution of creation. So I believe in the evolution of everything that's man-made. Number one, I think God's creation was perfect.
Yes,
Because every day that God created, He ended that day by saying it is good.
that's right.
And so God's creation is perfect. I do believe in evolution of things that are man-made, and we can prove it by just our life. Cars have evolved, and we can look at the evolution of cars. Yes, necessity, mankind's necessity of something that He made, not created, but something that He made, required evolution to conform to our needs at our time.
Yeah.
Same thing with cell phones. Have they not evolved into something totally different? The internet has evolved. Those are all elements that have been made by man.
Yeah.
And I believe in the evolutionary process of man-made items. I believe things that God created and God made are perfect, and therefore there is no evolutionary path for them.
Well,
So-
I'll take it a little step different.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Not that I disagree with you. I agree with you. But let's say let's take horses for instance. There's an evolution or a selective breeding process that improves that horse, but he's always a horse. Same
Right.
with a dog.
Right.
Same with a dog. Evolution has never, in the way that Darwin's theories, they've never crossed species.
Right.
So you got 100 different breeds of dogs, okay, but they're all dogs.
Yeah.
And they look different. They're different sizes. They're bred for different purposes as the others. So you could call that a form of evolution if you wanted to.
Sure.
But it's not. But they never cross species.
I agree, 100%. And another thing, if when you look at the theory of evolution, when it comes to living beings, the people that support it will say, well, we had to evolve. And I've got some definitions down
If
here. that we can
anything,
read.
we're devolving. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
basically, it says that we evolved because of the necessity of evolution, the things that we needed to survive and to reproduce and survive and things like that. Okay, my dog needs to get in my cabinets, but he's not evolved to the point. You know what I mean? He needs to open that fridge. There's things in there my dog needs, and every dog that I had and every cat that I've had all need access to those things, but yet none of them have
If you come
evolved to
home
the
and
point.
Fido has a can opener,
That's right.
opening his can of dog food, you're in trouble.
And I think back to
Well, on the
I
bright
think
side,
back
he
to
can feed
Gary
himself.
Larson and exactly. So I think back to Gary Larson and the Far Side because his animals did evolve in there, and it's so funny. So anyway, so now we're talking about the evolution of life, or finding the origins of life. I want you to take it to the next step. Let's look at NASA's definition of life. Okay, so this
okay.
So this comes from their website, and this is NASA's definition of life. To help with the development of strategies towards formalizing plans for life detecting missions. Okay, that's going to come up in just a minute. Life detecting missions.
Okay.
We are collecting life detection content that exists that will hopefully be useful to stimulate and support discussions about how one would detect extant life beyond Earth. Okay, what extant life is, I had to look that word up. What extant life is, it is life that is still alive. Okay, they're looking for things that are still alive and still moving on other planets. So they're trying to gather this information that would help them detect extant life beyond Earth. All right, the types of content that they're collecting are studies and workshops and literatures and white papers and videos and links. So they're asking they're asking the public to contribute to this. So if you want to do that, you can go to NASA's definition of life on their website, and you can submit your content there. And I would suggest that somebody submit them the scriptures. And
Yes.
so anyway, the NASA definition of life is this: life is a self-sustaining chemical system capable of Darwinian evolution and considered the specific features of the one life we know, Terra life. So think about it. So I look.
That's again one of those things you would pass over and not think about and not question because you just don't want to fool with it.
Yeah. So I put, I'm on the. I signed up for the testing of Google's AI. Okay.
Oh, you did you?
Yeah, I did, and so they've let me in. They've probably let millions of people in, so it's nothing special. You just have to say, hey, I want to do it, and about a week later, you say, okay, you can do it. So anyway,
Pretty complicated.
it's pretty complicated. So think about this. They're talking about life-sustaining chemical that's capable of Darwinian evolution. So Darwinian evolution is the ability to evolve based on what I said earlier, your need to survive and reproduce. But there's some other things that go with that. But that's what Darwinian evolution is.
Do you notice that even though it's supposed to be a theory, Darwin's theory,
Yeah.
it's in their paper and everybody else's, they leave it as fact. It's like that's
Sure.
the basis on which we're going to do because this is the way it is,
Right.
and it's never been proven at all.
No.
In fact, it's been disproven many times.
Absolutely.
And they still hang their hat on it as if.
But I've got an education, and
Yeah, I don't
that's what they taught me in school.
I don't know.
All right, so last part of that said, and considered to be specific features of the one's life we know. So they're talking about the life that we know, Terran life. All right, so guess what? There is no definition, and Google AI cannot tell me what Terran life is. And so I guess it's life on dry ground. I don't know. When you think about Terra,
is Terra Earth?
Terra is dry ground.
Okay.
Terra firma is dry ground.
Terra firma, yes.
Yeah, is dry ground.
Okay.
So I thought, well, maybe that had something to do with it, or terrain or something like that. But there is no definition. Even Google AI came up blank. So
I think it's a brand of tires.
It could be.
X-Terrors.
There we go. There we go.
I like how y'all link everything back into cars.
Yeah, we do, because it's the heritage show.
exactly.
You know, we got to link everything back
Y'all
to
got to
cars.
set those Terra tires up there.
Well, as a matter of fact, we got a sale on them this week.
You know, and basically that's a good thing, because
Tires are always good.
they're always needing to touch the earth too.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, so that's
Rain, sleet, snow.
Those Terra firma tires I've got on my.
so. It goes on to say this. Background from the limits of organic life in planetary systems. It says this: for generations, the definition of life has eluded scientists and philosophers.
Oh, it's escaped them.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously they can't even tell us what a
We
woman
don't know
is.
what life is.
I mean, sure they don't know what life is. They can't tell you what a man or a woman is, or I mean, when I was in school and we learned that. Have they unlearned that? Was Pluto a planet when you were in school?
Absolutely, it was.
I'm telling
So
you.
what you're telling me is somebody can come up and say they identify as an alien, and boom.
Boom! There you
Boom.
go. Thank you.
Evidently,
I just found it. I guess dumbfounding, whatever you want to say. The generations for generations, the definition of life has eluded scientists and philosophers. Many have come to recognize that the concept of definition itself is difficult to define. Oh my goodness! I mean that is a black hole. So NASA creates their own black holes here, and you know that's what they're going to look for. All they got to do is read their own papers. We can, however, list the characteristics of the examples of life as we know it, life on Earth. So here's the examples of life that they know. Number one, it is chemical in essence. Terrain living systems contain molecular species that undergo chemical transformations or metabolism under the direction of molecules or enzyme catalysts, whose structures are inherited and heritable information it itself carried by molecules. So that's I mean, there's like 4 parts to that definition. I'm like, oh my goodness. So here they don't know what life is, but they can describe the elements of life, okay? It's completely dumbfounds me.
I think one of the best definitions I heard was, and you see it on these shirts, is life is good.
Yeah.
I like that. Or just a smiley face.
Life is good.
You know, didn't Forrest Gump make that?
Yeah.
That's what's happened. Yeah, that's what I saw the movie.
Exactly. Oh, me. So here's the other thing that they found out about life. They can't tell you what life is, but here's the second thing. To have a directed chemical transformations, terrain living systems exploit a thermodynamic disequilibrium. All right.
That's what I thought it was.
Why in the world would you write that? I mean, who's reading this paper and saying,
Somebody got paid
yeah,
by word.
You're exactly right. You are exactly right.
Whoever wrote that patted himself on the back after they got up.
He said, they'll never understand this.
So, you know, I had to look up those words too, thermodynamic disequilibrium. And so it goes into the theory. It goes into the theory of thermodynamics about heat and energy and stuff like that. So, you know, basically, okay, so life, that's the second element of life. The third element is the biomolecules that terrain life uses to support metabolism, build structures, manage energy, and transfer information, take advantage of the covalent bonding properties of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, and the ability of heteroatoms, all right, that's another word, heteroatoms, primarily oxygen and nitrogen, to modulate the reactivity of hydrocarbons.
So there.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm pretty sure we're going to take a quantum leap here pretty soon.
Yeah, we are. I mean, so, and it just amazes me that they can't tell me what life is, but they've got all these great definitions right here. But, okay, and the other one is this. Terrain biomolecules interact with water to be soluble or not, or to react
Or not.
or not, exactly, or to react or not in a way that confers fitness on a host organism. So you and I are living on a host organism. I guess that would be dirt, because we have to stop and talk about this. I mean, I don't know that I disbelieve that altogether. Everything, here's what we got to understand. We've got this push, whether it's to quit drilling for gas or whatever, and if you're an environmentalist, that's awesome. I think we need to take care of our planet. I think God put us here to husband our planet. But everything that we have,
Yes.
everything, the phone that you carry in your pocket, the clothes you have on your back, the food that you eat, everything, the microphones that we're talking in today, it all came from the ground.
Everything did.
Mm-hmm.
You can't run around and grab air and make this stuff. It all come from the ground. And if we continue to live on this earth, it will all come from the ground. So you can't stop digging up the ground. You got to get it somewhere.
It comes from the elements. I mean, it's we haven't created anything. We make stuff out of the stuff that's here.
So this is what gets me. So here they have all these definitions. There's one more, and we'll get to it in just a minute. To me, it just confirms how great God is.
Yes.
I mean, think about when God created the earth. He didn't just create you and I and all the things that's on the earth. He put everything in the earth that we're going to need, and not just for our generations, but from the generations that came before us and the generations that come after us. He has created everything that we need, and I just think it's just a great testament to who God is.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
Anyway,
I was thinking about while you were talking. I was thinking about Job.
yeah.
And Job, the calamity that came on him, and then this whole dialogue between him and his friends about who God is and what God is and how God does and what He don't do and this, that, and the other. And at the end of it, when God shows up, one of the things that struck me is He says things too wonderful for me.
Yeah.
And when he finally sees God and has a little better of understanding, he says it's too wonderful for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's overwhelming. And we're not going to understand it all. We see in part.
Now we do.
We see in part. But later we will.
But later we'll see clearly.
Later we will.
Absolutely.
But it's too wonderful for me. God exists outside of, we live in time, space, and matter. And
Yeah.
God exists outside of time. All we can see is what's been created in that time, space, and matter. Right? And God created all that. He's not that. He can't be that and create it.
That's
He's
right.
outside of that.
That's right.
So when He created the universe and all that we know in time, space, and matter, He created time, space, and matter, and that's where He put us.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And so He's outside of that. And outside of that is beyond our comprehension at this moment.
And I think Scripture in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says that, and lean not to our own understanding.
That's right.
Because God says that His ways are not our ways.
That's right.
And so, you're exactly right about that. And this just proves to me when they delve into this and they can get down to the microbiology of it, it just says how great God is. He thought of the smallest things that it takes
Oh, my
for
gosh.
life. And so one more thing, and you're going to enjoy this one, both of you guys will.
Can't wait.
We can't define what life is, but we do have the elements of life, and we can talk about those. The last one here, I think it's the last one, yeah. The last one here is living structures that have emerged on Earth. All right, so we're here. We sort of can relate to that. Living structures that have emerged on Earth have done so by a process of random variation in the structures of inherited biomolecules, on which was superimposed natural selection to achieve fitness. These are the central elements of the Darwinian paradigm. So, have you felt like you've done that, Jeff? I mean,
to the very best of my ability. Yes.
I've done it without even looking at it. Without even trying.
You know what? Yeah, we've done that with little effort whatsoever. We just did it.
So if you understood that NASA's definition of life right there,
I didn't understand a word.
You are educated beyond belief.
You know what?
Here.
It reminds me of a Jerry Clower quote about the man that had been studying like this. He has been educated beyond his intelligence.
I agree.
He has been educated beyond his intelligence. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty fitting. This also reminded me of another Far Side.
All right.
I love the Far Side.
Yeah, I do too.
A little gathering of fleas on the back of a dog, okay? And you can see the hair, they're standing among the hairs like we'd stand in a forest.
Yeah.
So the little fleas are on the back. And they've gathered there for a meeting because they don't believe in dogs.
They can't see the whole picture, can they?
They're trying to determine if a dog really exists.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. I have not seen that one, but that's perfect. That's even good for today's discussion here.
It's perfect for today's discussion.
So listen, this Bible verse, these scriptures kept coming to me while I was studying this, and this is in Romans chapter 12, and I'm going to start verse 18 right here. It says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men." All
Yes.
right, 100% agree with that. Who hold the truth in unrighteousness. To me, that says, who holds the truths of God or the creations of God in an unrighteous manner.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them. And we're going to talk about that for a second. For God has showed it unto them. So God says, I have made my creation visible to everyone.
That's right.
All right? So for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. To me, the Bible is telling us that even if you have never been to church and you have never heard the gospel, you can look out at creation and know that God exists.
Right.
Just by the creation, God reveals himself in creation.
The heavens declare.
Absolutely. And so today we've got things that reach way beyond the earth. We have the Hubble Space Telescope out there. It's been out there for years and years. The James Webb Space Telescope has just been up for a few years. And if you look on the internet, there's new revelations of just how vast the heavens are.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And I think it's a testament of how great God is, and to look at those heavens, to believe in Scripture and to look at those heavens and say, well, God didn't create that. We've got to figure out how that came into play. To me, that's just it's almost a hypocrisy at its greatest. But listen what Scripture goes on to say, Jeff, and it says, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God.
That's
they
right.
saw his creation, but they didn't credit that creation to him. Neither were they thankful, but became vain in their, imaginations.
Amen.
They came
Perfect.
vain in their
On the spot.
imaginations. NASA just says there's no proof that this stuff ever exists, but we're going to imagine a program that we need to do and spend billions of dollars on to prove whether something exists or not. So they became vain in their imaginations. And listen, and their foolish heart was darkened. And the very next verse says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Now, to me,
It couldn't fit any better.
I'm telling you that. I think you're exactly right. But with that all being said, I have proof positive today. NASA, if you work at NASA and your mission is to find the origins of life outside of the planet Earth, I know where you can do that. It is on the moon. And so NASA has this new Artemis program that's going on. They blasted the new Artemis, they started the new Artemis program in November. I guess they've been working on it for years, but the first launch was last November.
Okay.
And so there's 4 missions or maybe 5 missions that's going to go up, and they named it Artemis, sort of like they named the mission to the moon Apollo. Well, this mission is Artemis, and the Artemis mission is going to land man on the moon again. So this is in conjunction with when Obama was president, when President Obama was in office. He gave the direction that he wanted a manned space flight to Mars by 2033. All right, so we're getting close to that already. So these are support missions. There's more than one reason for these missions. They are support missions that's going on. Artemis 1 tested out the new technology. Okay, the rocket systems, the SLRS that they have created. or not created, but have made to launch man into space and take man to the moon is pretty phenomenal. They have an all-new lunar module and things like that. So that first flight was this past November.
Okay.
In November 2022 was Artemis 1. Artemis 2 is going to take place sometime this year. And what's going to happen is they're going to go into, they're going to orbit the moon at a distance that has never been orbit. They're going to be way away from the moon. They're going to take a further deep space orbit than they did even in the Apollo missions. And in that, and if my understanding is correct, in that they are going to also take excursions in that mission, which means they will leave that ship and then return to that ship, all in space. And so they're doing this to support their mission of finding life on other planets, and to support their mission of putting a person back on the moon. So Artemis 3 is going to be the key voyage. Artemis 3 is they got a new lunar module too. It's called the Orion. So the SLRS, the rocket system that launches into space, is new technology, but they also have a new Orion capsule that 4 astronauts can fit into. And it's going to be the one that lands on the moon and stuff like that. So
Are y'all going to carry that up at Heritage?
we're going to
we
get test
order one of
drives. We're
those?
going to get test drives on that. So
I'm just thinking.
So is this going to be bigger than the 60 models? Because you said that there was no way that.
Yeah, I'm still skeptical.
They're going to upgrade to Suburban XL.
well, I had the okay. So the Orion module is 26 feet tall.
Okay.
So whenever you went to see that capsule, I don't know what the name of that capsule was. It was on the Saturn V's, but it's actually pretty big. But when you get down inside where the guys sit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now these guys be moving around in here because
Yeah,
It's
good.
gonna be a lot
Good for
big-
them.
yeah, exactly.
Well, if you drove through McDonald's and that, you wouldn't have room to eat.
So it's going to be about the size of half of a hotel room, maybe a hotel room, 690 square feet. And so however big that is.
Okay.
So that's going to be how much room they have to get around. I just happen to have that in front of me
So
here.
where's your proof?
Okay, so I'm not there yet.
Okay, sorry. I'm getting ahead of them.
Yeah, getting ahead of yourself. So Artemis 2 is going to be taking the orbit around the moon and doing the excursions away from the spacecraft and then re-entry back into the Earth.
So 2's going to be manned?
Yes, it will. And Artemis 3 is the one that will land man back on the moon since the first time since the early 70s. So I guess 1972 was the last time that we've been on the moon. And so Artemis 3 in 2025 will land folks back on the moon. It'll be the first woman will be on the moon, and the first person of color will be on the moon. And so they've already got them picked, and you can go on their website and look at that.
Okay.
All right. So so last time man went to the moon in the 70s, and the flights of the Apollo that actually landed on the moon went to the equatorial region of the moon. They went to the equator of the moon. This one is going to be at the south pole of the moon, or pretty close to the south pole. And it's down around the Tychon crater. You ever look up at that full moon and you can see this big, huge crater? That's called the Tychon crater.
Okay.
And so it's going to be south of that, towards the south pole of the moon. And I guess they're going to get close enough where they can explore the dark side of the moon. And part of this exploration is they're looking for moon ice. All right, so they're looking for moon ice for 2 purposes. Number one is the purpose we've been talking about here all day, and they're looking for life. All right, so they're looking for life in this moon ice, or if it could sustain life, and they're looking for ways to take that ice and make fuel out of it. All right, so if you work at NASA, I've got an ice box in my house, and I'll give you ice.
Oh my gosh.
I'm interested in how I can make my ice turn into fuel to do things. But the bigger mission is in support of the manned mission to Mars. So the moon is going to be a stopping off place where maybe a refueling station will be, or whatever. Because when you get up in space, there is no, like when I spent the night with my friends, there is no calling your daddy in the middle of the night saying, "Come get me."
No.
There's none of that. And so, and you got to know when you take off at this it has a high possibility of being a one-way mission. And the folks that went, I've got my hats off to them. They've got more nerve than anybody I know. But with that being said, I have proof positive that you don't have to dig up that ice, that the origins of life here on Earth can be found on the moon. And here's what I'll say, because I've got to wrap up and finish this. There were 12 people that we know, 12 individuals have stepped on the face of the moon. All right, and that's debatable. We'll debate that at a different time.
I'm staying with you.
Okay, you're staying with me. There's 12 individuals who have stepped on the face of the moon. In Apollo 15, in July of 1971, Apollo 15 took off, and it was a manned mission to the moon.
Yes.
And it was our third to the last. There's two other manned missions to the moon after that. Apollo 16 and 17 also went to the moon. But there was a guy on there, commander on that Apollo 15, David Scott. And David Scott's in my Sunday school class. It's a different David Scott.
David Scott. I got you. I'm with you.
So it's a different David Scott. So David Scott was the commander, and he, I guess, on their trip, I need to do a little bit more research, but I believe on their trip they took the rover. You guys have all seen the clips of the moon of the guy driving the rover around the moon and stuff like that. And let's talk about that for 2 seconds, because we'll wrap this up in just a minute.
I got you. We're all right.
So there's only been 12 people on the face of the moon, but yeah, we have left more than 400,000 pounds of garbage up there, including 96 bags of human waste. Now, from my understanding, NASA is wanting to retrieve those bags of waste to understand what space and time has done to it. So I wish I could be making this up, because it would make for good radio if I could make sense.
But I'm with you, because that's exactly what we're paying NASA to do. So go right ahead.
Yeah. So my point was this, is that only 12 people have been on the moon, and we've got 200 tons of trash up there.
Yeah.
So that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway, on August 2nd, 1971, David Scott was driving around the rover, and the rover is still there. And it is left in a place called the Sea of Storms. So if you're out in your yard and you're looking up at the moon, maybe a full moon, and let's treat the moon like a clock. So if you're looking at 10 o'clock, you'll see a dark spot on the moon that is called the Sea of Storms.
Yes.
And inside that Sea of Storms is where he left the rover. And on that rover, he left he left his Bible. And astronauts were allowed to carry personal items into space.
Yes.
And from what I read, and he has a book that he wrote about this, from what I've read, he didn't get specific permission to leave his scripture on the moon, but he did. So my take on this is, if you're looking for the origins of life on Earth and you're doing it extraterrestrially, go to the moon, get on that rover. Listen, he didn't leave it in the floorboard of the rover. He put it on the command console of the rover.
How cool is that?
And he took a picture of it before he left, and he's got that picture in the book that he wrote. So the scripture is on the command console of that rover, and I would implore you that if you're going up there, turn to page 1 and read these words. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And that is proof positive that we can find the origins of life on Earth by extraterrestrial travel. And I think that's just so awesome that we had a guy back in the 70s that had enough oomph to say, I'm going to leave my scripture here. And man, wasn't it awesome? Man?
That's pretty darn good.
He done a great job.
I think that's awesome. That's a great story, buddy.
Yeah,
That's a great story.
Is.
I think I had heard something about that in the past, but I had forgotten it. I had forgotten about that. And I didn't know where you were going.
You didn't know where I was going?
I didn't know where you were going. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like it. So
took a long time to get there.
I'm telling you.
You can spin a yarn.
54 minutes.
Spin a yarn.
Oh my goodness.
It's incredibly interesting. And of course, now you can't argue about the technology that was developed.
Absolutely not.
With the NASA program, and how, I'm sure that has benefited us in many, many, many ways. So I don't, I'm not against us doing those kind of things.
Me either.
Yeah.
But some of the ideas behind that paper that you written are just seem ludicrous.
Yeah, and if they just said, "Hey, we're going to go to Mars to pick up some rocks, and it's a pretty cool place. We want to see what the atmosphere is like and see what it's composed of." Not a problem. Go
Get up there, study it, learn all you can learn.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
It's kind of like. Well, I shouldn't say that. Never mind.
Oh, maybe I'm fixing to have to wrap things up, Jeff. I'm
Well,
going
I'm going to see if I can do this the right way.
Here we go.
Hear this?
Thank you for joining into the show today.
I'll give you a little soothing music to calm our hearts.
Well, we need that, don't we?
To calm us down a little bit. By
Listen.
the way, speaking of, I've mentioned this a couple times this morning. Have y'all seen the forest fires we got going on in Canada?
So the smoke is trickling down this way, right?
Yeah, I hope it's not going to get here, but it's all over New York and the Northeast up there.
Yeah.
The air quality up there is getting pretty bad, evidently. So,
Yeah. So sometimes we forget that we're on the air. We're not just on the air for radio, but we're also on YouTube and Facebook. And so we said some things today that may have struck a nerve with folks, guys. We are controversial in our beliefs. I think we all said we're creationists. We believe that God created humankind and
To
created
me,
the
that's
universe.
not controversial.
It is not controversial, but it is to other people. So if you got a comment, leave it in the comments below. If you're online reading this or watching this show, leave it in the comments below. Let us know what you think.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Been a good one, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We may have to continue more, though. There's more to be learned.
There is more to be learned.
There's more to be learned about the origins of life. We know where we come
I'll
from.
just take God at His word. How about
That's right.
that?
We know where we come from.
Absolutely.
We've been taught. Keith Durham, everybody. Of course, Heritage Automotive. We ought to make sure that we plug those guys
Yeah,
a little
that's right.
bit. You guys will be up there today.
Yeah, we're up there today. And listen,
all day long.
we're here in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, 2122 North Locust Avenue. And if you have a hard time finding us, then just go to Sonic.
Yep.
Keep going north past Sonic and the closed down Shoney's, and we're right in the middle of it and right across the street from Zaxby's.
Speaking of that,
Yeah.
any word from the Shoney's complex up there at all? You got any ideas on anything?
No,
happening?
but
is anything happening with that?
Yeah, the street vendors have found that parking lot.
Yes, I
which
noticed that.
And the two weeks ago, we had a what I call a meth lab yard sale.
It was pretty rough looking.
And they left it. Everything it didn't get. I mean, they left everything, and then it blew over in our parking lot.
Had a going out of business sale.
Speaking of that, did you see up in New York they now have crack pipe vending machines?
Are you serious?
Serious.
Oh my goodness.
100% serious.
Man, what else are we going to capitalize on?
This is WDXE.
There we go. We gotta go. That hard break has hit us. Bye, guys.
7 FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
Thank you, Jeff. That was.
Hang on a second. It's not going for some reason. Oh.